Hi, I'm John from Reader, and in this video I'm going to show you how to route and replace cables on bikes that use our WirePort system. WirePort is a feature that is seen on all newer mid to high-end Reader bike models across both road, mountain and e-bike ranges. It consists of a specially designed upper headset cover and bearing compression ring that guide the cables coming from the handlebar controls neatly through the head tube and then internally through the frame to where they need to go. The main benefits of WirePort are a very well organised cockpit that improves both the look and aerodynamics of the bike while also reducing cable rattle. As there are no longer any holes for cables in the frame head tube, cable rub is eliminated and the structure is both cleaner looking and stronger. WirePort works with cables from gear shifters, whether they're electronic or mechanical, remotes for shocks or dropper seat posts, hydraulic brake lines and more. Recabling a bike with WirePort should take no longer than any other internally routed design and is often faster. However, there are some time-saving tips and tricks which we'll share in this video. A key feature of WirePort is that cables from the rear of the bike are routed up through the down tube before merging at the junction with the head tube, then up through the special headset cap and then onto the handlebars. To make it easier to see what is going on, I've removed the handlebars and most other components from this bike. Doing all of this obviously isn't necessary for a cable replacement. We would recommend that you place the bike in a work stand before starting this process. It'll also be much easier if the bike is nice and clean before you begin as well. Replacing an inner cable on a bike with WirePort is no different to any other bike, but in order to remove the outer cable you will have to perform this anyway. Undo the clamp holding it to the derailleur, remove the ferrule and also the end cap on the outer cable. You'll need to undo any wired electric cabling, and on conventional wired designs you'll need to undo the cover on the shifter and pull the inner cable fully through. For replacement of hydraulic brake hoses, you'll need to disconnect the hose from the brake lever and also remove the compression nut, and then remove the barb and the olive from the cable before sliding the compression nut and cover off. Depending on the model of the bike, you may need to loosen a cable clamp on the frame to allow the cable or hose to be pulled through for removal. It's possible to use an existing cable to pull through your new cable. In order to do this and to reduce friction, you should slightly loosen the stem bolts and also the steer clamp bolt before slightly pulling up on the entire assembly in order to give a little bit more working room. You should now be able to pull through the cable in the traditional fashion. Please note that if you're doing a hydraulic hose, it's best to remove the hose from the front of the bike towards the rear. On full suspension models, you may find it easiest to pull the cable through the rear triangle before attempting to pull it through the front in order to keep friction down. If you're replacing a gear outer cable on a model that has a port in the down tube, it is easiest to replace the cable by threading it through the WirePort at the front of the bike towards the rear, as this means no further disassembly is required. You should use a hook tool or a spoke with a J-bend and a set of needle nose pliers to pull the outer cable through the port at the down tube of the bike. If the bike does not have a cable port on the down tube or you are routing a hydraulic brake hose, you'll need to route the new cable from the rear of the bike towards the front. In order to guide the cable or hose through the WirePort from the rear of the bike, some disassembly of the headset is required. Make sure you support the fork to prevent it falling out of the bike. Using a tow strap or reusable zip ties to hold the fork crown to the top tube may help here. Once the stem and top cap is loosened, you can then pull the WirePort top cap and compression ring up and off the steerer. Note that the cables run through the inside of the upper headset bearing. Now is a good time to inspect the condition of the bearing and re-grease it if needed. If complete replacement is needed, you will need to disconnect all the cables in order to remove the upper headset bearing, so preventative maintenance is a good idea. You will need to drop the fork slightly to allow access to the cable or the hose inside the head tube. For smooth operation and easy refitting, be sure you route the cables correctly. For controls on the left-hand side of the bar, route the cable or hose on the right-hand side of the steerer tube and vice versa. Once the cable is on the correct side, push the fork back into place and hold it in position. You should then thread the cable through the compression ring and then the wire port cover on the same side. Make sure that the cables are stacked smoothly in the same way that they go through both the compression ring and the wire port cover. You should now replace the spacers, stem and top cap. Align the wire port, fork and stem correctly and torque to spec. For hydraulic brake hoses, you will need to trim them to length and then reconnect using a new olive and barb before bleeding the system correctly. For any cables, you'll need to trim them to length, then add an end cap before threading an inner through and setting up tension in the usual fashion. So there you have it. I hope this has given you an insight into how wire port works, and for more tech videos like this, make sure you subscribe to our channel. Thank you, goodbye.